Hello, and welcome to my podcast entitled The Wright Experience. I'm Dr. William T. Wright, Jr., the founder and host of this show. I am now in the midst of my 9th year as a school superintendent and my 24th as a public school educator. And over those years, I've been blessed enough to be able to work with and get to know some amazing leaders from all across the United States. I am excited about the progress that this show is making, and we look forward to continuing to bring you outstanding leaders from all across this great country. Our initial focus is on educational leaders, and down the road, sometime next year, we'll look to expand to other disciplines as well. When you hear something that you like, please click like, give us a comment, and most importantly, those of you viewing via YouTube, we'd love for you to click that subscribe button. I've been absolutely pleased and amazed at the abundance of responses that we received over the past 7 to 8 months that we've been doing the show. This is the 32nd episode tonight of the Wright Experience. During the month of October, we will continue to feature principals, for this is Principals Month nationally. And so we're going to feature public school educators who are serving as principals in today's schools all of this month. My guest tonight is serving in his second principalship. When he applied for the position that he currently holds, yours truly had the opportunity to call some old friends to ask about this gentleman, because he and I did not work together, but he was working in a district in which I had served. And so, and I called a bunch of different people, different positions, and one thing was consistent is that, William, you're going to get a good man if you get him. And he's done a phenomenal job and he continues to do a phenomenal job for us here in Hertford County Public Schools. My guest tonight is Dr. Jayson Leach. Dr. Jayson Leach is a native of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and he currently lives in Hoskin, North Carolina, where he serves as principal of Hertford County High School. Dr. Leach is the youngest son of Doctors Magdalene and J.R. Leach, Sr., the founders of Bread of Life Ministries Bible Institute. Dr. Leach was born at Womack Army Medical Center at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Dr. Leach began his education at Montclair Elementary School. He attended Ann Chestnut Junior High and graduated from Fayetteville 71st High School. After graduating high school, he went on to attend Fayetteville State University and North Carolina A&T State University. We'll forgive him for that, where he was on the football team as well as a Chancellor's Scholar. He also received his administration degree from UNC Pembroke and his doctorate from Bread of Life Ministries and Liberty University. Dr. Leach has 18 years of educational experience, with 10 of those serving in an administrative role. Dr. Leach believes in leading through stewardship. His interests and hobbies include ministry, motivational speaking, fitness, and mentoring. The My Brother's Keeper Mentor Program. Dr. Leach is married to Letitia Leach, and he has 4 children. Jason, who is a senior at Elizabeth City State University, Josiah, who is a freshman at UNC Pembroke, Altamise Jr., who is in the 8th grade, and Sinai, who's in the 8th grade. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Dr. Jayson Leach. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you, Dr. Wright. This is a pleasure to be here with you.
All right. Good to have you. Good to have you. And certainly we are proud of the work that's going on at Hertford County High School under your leadership. And so we'll jump right into the questions. And in fact, that'll be the first question. Talk to us about the work that's going on at Hertford County High School and some of the wonderful things that are happening there currently.
All right. Hertford County High School it has been a challenge in the beginning. However, through learning some traditions, through learning the folks that's there in the community, being able to bridge the gap between the school and the community has brought a lot of experience that will help us be able to continue to strive. I have a great administrative team that is Mr. Hines, Ms. Watford, Ms. Brown, who have came in and just jumped right in with the thought processes of what we can do to be able to make the school and the community better. COVID has gave us some things, and we have met those things squarely face to face. But one of the biggest things that I could say, or what we got going on great at Hertford County High School, is getting our kids back in school, getting them used to going back to school, and getting them back in the routine. That has been a challenge. However, through the 3 C's that we are doing, which is connect, challenge, and celebrate, we are connecting our community. You know, that's real big. We're going to be plugged in. One of the things that you will see about the administrative staff, the staff, is that we're there. They see us. We're around. The athletic events don't happen. You know, once everything goes back, choral events, we're going to have parades coming up. You know, we're going to be there. We're going to celebrate each other. You know, we're going to celebrate what we're doing, the good, you know, things that we have going on. We're going to celebrate the staff, because we have a wonderful staff. I inherited Dr. Wright. I'm going to tell you that, but we'll talk about that later. But I inherited a great staff. And then we're going to also challenge folks to be better. We cannot be complacent. We're going to comfort the discomforted, but we're going to uncomfort the comforted to try to push forward to be better.
And that's all about that continuous improvement, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So that's outstanding. Dr. Leach, what are some of the specific challenges that schools in general are facing right now, trying to navigate this pandemic? Some folks seem to think this pandemic is over, but it's not. And so what are some of those challenges that you're facing, and how are you addressing those challenges?
Yeah. One of the biggest challenges we are facing is the breakdown in communication. You know, it's a lot of hearsay. So one of the things we have to do is to ensure that folks understand that, you know, we have multiple streams of communication. We use Facebook, we use Instagram, we use Twitter, we use email, we use the Blackboard messaging, we use the website. We have to get that communication so everybody is understandable about what we have going on during the pandemic. You know, masks are still important. Children think that they're not, because they feel like they're invincible. You know how that goes.
Yeah, sure.
But that's one of the biggest challenges. So communication, and you have to understand the mass situation, and then going further to understand that, you know, we're at a time now where we have to improve education in the sense of moving forward with what we're doing. So we got to this point as far as with streaming, like what we're doing now, and then we got to the point of doing certain things. I use Canvas as a platform, because that's what we use. But when we look at the challenges we have, is we got to get kids educated, and we have to get them back to where they were. Some kids are here and they're showing up, but at the same time, we still have to get them back into routine. Some children are used to having, you know, a formative routine. I wake up, I get my little brother ready, I get my little sister ready, I get on the bus, and I go to school. Now is, you know, some kids are having to go to work and have to do other things prior to, or they have to do, you know, get you know, just the structure of the home has changed. So when we look at that, the strategy, we have to make sure that we get all that together.
And certainly over these last 18 months, some of that work that you're talking about is done out of necessity.
Right.
It's just trying to get those routines back in order. And that's not about going back to some, you know, pre-COVID normal or anything of that nature. But it's about having structure and being able to ensure that learning takes place. So absolutely, that's great stuff. So let's talk about Dr. Leach a little bit. What accomplishments thus far have you achieved, Dr. Leach, that you're most proud of?
One of the things that I'm most proud of is prior to Hertford County, I was at an alternative school. And at the alternative school, we were able to change the culture of the school. We were able to change the dynamics of the school, where we ended up being one of the top alternative schools in the state. We had 100% graduation rate. We were able to lower the dropout rate through some programs that we have. And we were able to move it from being a D school, you know, to a C school. So we were able to move up a letter grade. Another great achievement, I would say, and it's something small, but something big to me, is that, you know, we wanted to ensure the safety of all kids at Hertford County High School. And we did a book bag drive. And it's something simple. However, you know, in the beginning, there was a lot of talk.
Sure.
However, what we wanted to do was eliminate excuses. So in that process, we were able to, raise over 400 book bags to give our students. So that was over 65% of our students to be able to get it. A book bag, and that's a clear mesh book bag. And it is, and some people may seem like, oh, that's just something simple. However, that is a great feat, because you look at, when you go to school now, you're looking at what we have done as a staff, as a school. That's something small. So when we go to, this is what we have done as far as changing the structure, as far as the test scores. We changing the way we instruct students. We changing how we do things inside the building. Something so small as us coming together to do that will escalate when it comes to what we do on the other side.
And that also got some community folks involved in helping you with that. I know
yes, that bridged that gap.
That's right. He had some donations and so forth, which is key in school building leadership, principalships, and things of that nature. Is absolutely key. Leadership in general, you better have some input and help from your community. So that's outstanding. So Dr. Leach, in your opinion, we all right now, school districts across the nation really are challenged with problems with recruiting and retaining professionals. And then deeper than that, particularly professionals, Black and brown professionals. What do we need to do a better job of in terms of trying to recruit and retain professionals in our schools, in your opinion?
One of the biggest things, and it's an old saying,
right?
If you don't pay, they won't stay. Of course, I would use that one. I'm sorry, but I had to put that.
Okay, that's all right.
Just use some incentives, local incentives that we can do, and as administrators, very much support those individuals when they come in. I'm a product of lateral entry, which is the old way, which is now residency. So when I came in, I didn't have, the mentor, somebody could help me and things of that nature. They kind of just threw me to the wolves. Actually, we had a discussion about that today. And now that they have all these support groups, so I would say incentives, number one, let's give them something to look forward to. They're, just like children, we want them to grasp that goal. When I run a track meet, I know I'm gonna get a gold medal at the end.
Right.
Outside of just getting a certification, what else do I have that's tangible that I can bring back to me? Mm-hmm. What else can I do that I can bring back that's going to make me better as a professional? So just don't, I know some schools have said, but they offer the master's arts in teacher. So now the tangible thing was, yes, I'm gonna be certified, but then I got that master's degree as well. So locally, what we can do is just offer some incentives, continue to offer, local things. What I mean by local things, like in this area, it would be that, the housing situation, things of that nature. That's what we can do to retain people. Reach out to our schools that's in our community. And one thing I noticed that was real big is that we have a community college and a university right here in our backyard. Being able, as they want to come to our campuses, we can go to their campus as well, and which we are, but we want to go on their campuses. But once we get them, we have to hook them in. What can we do to hook them in? And that's supporting them while they're in our building. One thing that we're actually just starting now, as we get new employees and my administrative staff and some of my veteran teachers, we're having what they call an on-staff orientation. So when people are just not coming in and going straight to a classroom. I know last year was a little different because of COVID. We weren't in the building. So people were kind of they went through the district level orientation, but now we're able to implement a school orientation. So they're going to be able to go into the classroom, be a little bit more successful, observe some teachers, and go in. We're going to assign them mentors, and those mentors are not going to necessarily be the same discipline. We're going to look at the strengths of the teachers we have. I worked in situations where we would go out and get other people to come into our building and work with our teachers. But we have a lot of teachers, especially at Hertford County High School. I'm going to be bragging all day. I told you that. But we have a lot of great teachers at our school that have a lot of strengths that can help some teachers, but but we have to bring it out of them. Right. What I mean? Sometimes they've been so closed up so long, and then you got to think that 18 months have stressed them out as well. So we have to bring those, to help bring their tools back to the classroom. we're going to bring those out by allowing them to be able to help the teachers in the building. And I feel that'll help us be able to retain, because a lot of teachers who leave the profession just from just observation is they felt alone. They felt like nobody had their back. And then when they left, they were easily replaced. Because, in the mindset, it's always going to be, well, you leave, we're just finding another teacher. But at the same time, they have to feel valued. And that goes back to that celebration piece that we have at Hertford County, is that we try to celebrate our employees, whether you're a brand new teacher, whether you're a sub, whether you're a TA, whether you are a bus driver, whether you're a custodian, whether you work in the cafeteria. Everybody plays an important part in that piece of the puzzle that makes that school stay afloat.
Because you need every one of those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. And you mentioned something earlier about the masters, and I want to go back and talk about that. Mm-hmm. I've done this a couple of times on my show, Dr. Leach, and I'm going to take this opportunity to do it again, because viewers, we need your help. It used to be, when probably around the time Dr. Leach started as a teacher, when I started as a teacher 24 years ago, people got paid for master's degrees. So you go to school, you would get your job, get your license clear, and you were encouraged to go ahead and get your master's because that gave an increase in pay. Well, that's gone now in the state of North Carolina. We need to get that master's pay restored. So if you're listening to us and legislators, please tell them we need that back, because that is a great incentive to keep teachers and to keep teachers in the classroom serving our kids. And and we also talked last week about we need folks to see education as an investment in a profession and not a line item. So I said that, you didn't, Dr. Leach, but but that's what we need. And so Dr. Leach, try this one on for size. How do we help recreate respect for our profession? It seems at times that teachers aren't revered or respected globally like they were. So how do we get that back?
Well, it goes back to like when we tell and I'm gonna use the evaluation tool. We always talk about how do we, expose our students to be globally competitive. Right. Okay. So as administrators, we have to do that to make sure our teachers understand that. But how do we put it out there? As teachers, and educators, we have to act professionally at all times. Right. A lot of times people look at this as a job and not a career. I pride on the fact that this is the only job I had. Mm-hmm. Some people, in high school, you work the food line, you bag groceries, some people who were military work the PX. I said, but this is this is what I know as a career. I work with students, and make sure that, when you talk about it, you articulate it in a way that you have a vision that without us, we don't have NBA players. We don't have the doctors. We don't have the lawyers. We don't have the police officers, and we still have a big service in the community. And we have to continue to communicate with folks that there is an importance in education. I tell people all the time, yes, I know what 2 + 2 is, but I remember who taught me that. You follow what I'm saying? I understand what when you read something, you got to read it again, because a lot of people don't know this, but I had a reading disability. Like I was in the little hut out in the back in the elementary school, but I had somebody who cared. Right. And without that person caring, where would I be? And a lot of times when people make it, they forget that, because it goes back to the old saying, and Dr. Wright, you remember this: you don't never remember the great teachers, you remember the one that you didn't like as much. You know what I mean? That pushed you, and I'm to go back to old school. My mom would tell you she remembered the teacher that popped her on her knuckles because she wrote with the wrong hand. But at the same time, you think about the discipline that you learn when you come through. You go back to like the social media piece, and I'm gonna use this one as a platform. I hope this is all right. Sure. When you look at the TikToks and you look at certain things, they're using that to help educate our children. So when you look at it as a professional, you have some kids who are, who like, wait a minute, I can have a career in this. But is that a bad thing, or I'm gonna support that? So we have to continue to support our kids. We have to continue to take education to a next level as a professional. This is not just a job. So when we interview people and we bring them in, that's how we have to deal with it as such. We have to make sure they understand this is a career. This is just not something that, you know, I'm going to go to as a pastime, you're going to be affecting people. And it's on a wide spread. You're not affecting just, you know, one or two children. You're affecting a community. And when you affect a community, you have to think of it in that essence. When I came to Hertford County High School, I didn't think about, I'm just going to change a high school. I'm working with a community. You know what I'm saying? I'm working with a county. So it's broader than just those four walls. What am I going to do to spread it out beyond those four walls as a professional?
So what you're doing is you're really talking about setting and expecting that standard of professionalism. That's really what we're talking about, and the community input sounds like is something that you expect. You know, not just being here, not just 8 to 3, but we as leaders expect our folks to be about the profession, because it is that it is, in my opinion, one of the most important professions in the world. So,
and one of the hardest.
Yeah, it is, especially right now. It's not easy work, but it's very rewarding work when you see the product. You know, there's nothing any prouder. I've got a young man that I was a superintendent when I was in South Carolina, and he sent a tweet out the other day. He's number 5 running back in the country at Duke University, and really he went there to, you know, they called him to play football, but he really went there to get his academic goals met. So anyway, just, you know, and that's what it's all about, creating those proud moments. And we've got them here in Hertford, many success stories, and that's what makes this hard work, as you said, that we're doing worthwhile when you see the product. Dr. Leach, what about let's pretend for a moment that you have the opportunity to speak to someone who is aspiring to be a principal in today's schools. So what pieces of advice would you give them? Somebody that's maybe an AP right now, or even a teacher who is looking to become a principal. What advice would you give them?
The first thing I would give them is time management.
Okay.
During this COVID situation, you know, as a teacher and as an assistant principal, you know, you can clock in and kind of clock out if you say. But as a principal, you're totally plugged in. Right. You know, journal is the second thing. So the first thing would be time management. Learn that, because that's something that is continuous in my tank that I'm working on. Right. The next thing is journaling. Write things down, you know, because your mind is always going to be going. Also, number 3 is self-care. You know, when you go into this position, self-care kind of gets on the back burner. You know, especially I've been blessed with, and I got a great superintendent, but I've been blessed with a great superintendent that promotes that. But I've worked in a situation where that was not promoted, and so sometimes I have to be brought back. And I appreciate you, Dr. Wright, for bringing us back. But
I appreciate the shameless plug too, by the way. You can continue.
But you got to make sure you have that self-care, but also make sure you spend time with your family. But also, one of the biggest things is it's almost kind of like, and Kobe Bryant was one of my favorite basketball players. You know, you got to be a student in the game at all times. You know, you can never be in a situation where you know it all. You know, every voice you have to be able to hear, whether it's a student, whether it's a parent, whether it's a teacher, TA, whatever. You have to be able to hear what they're saying, but you can't get too much caught up into what you have going on that you don't hear what they're saying. There are the pieces to the puzzle that holds everything together. If one of those pieces falls, especially in the middle, and you holding the puzzle together, what happens to that puzzle? It falls in your hand. So one of the things you have to do is be able to listen. So we got time management, self-care, journaling, and you also have to be able to have a good ear. But you also lead through stewardship. And Dr. Wright, I told you that's my biggest thing. There's nothing I'm going to ask anyone to do that I'm not willing to do. So if I'm saying I got to go do this or I got to go do that, I understand. But at the same time, we have to lead a certain way. During COVID, it has taught me to be a little bit more understanding as a leader, if that makes sense, a little bit more compassionate. And that's what I want the staff, and I want, you know, the community to understand as well. You know, we have to lead from the back opposed to the front. You know, it's not a charge, go get it. It's okay, let's take it this way. Okay, well, it's not working out, but let's go this way. We're going to make pathways for people who come behind us. So as leaders now, it's just the groove is different. It's not a situation where I can go read it in a textbook. I was talking to somebody the other day. What we dealing with right now, man, we building this ship as we floating it, or people say we building this plane as we flying it. So it's not a situation where you can already know. Just be a student of the game.
And in fact, that's very interesting that you said that. A group of superintendents and I were talking about, and sometimes being a veteran doesn't help with what we're dealing with right now. I mean, it's because it's just new stuff, great stuff. I mean, we're certainly learning from the challenges that we're facing. And so let's talk a little bit about that. As schools begin, if they ever do, to transition into post-pandemic education, whenever that is, what have you learned that you think is kind of a non-negotiable that needs to remain, that you've learned out of the pandemic?
And I hope it's all right when I say this. Go back to the Michael Jackson thing. We're gonna wear masks, but no. But one of the things is going to be just going back to the basics. The non-negotiable is going to be going back to the structure, right, of how school is supposed to look. However, we're going to put the new additive pieces to that puzzle, which will be the social distancing. Just being a little bit more careful. New technology inside the building. One thing is, I was talking to somebody else earlier today, and we were talking about, when we open schools back, are we going to still have the other options for those students, and which is going to be the hybrid learning, synchronous, asynchronous, all those things for our children. We're going to try to have as much structure as possible, but at the same time, we're going to have to still, now that we have developed this groove, see, once you get a groove in something, it's kind of hard to get it out.
That's right.
It's going to take a little bit of time to get it out. So, and if you have a groove and you take something, you pack it on top of it. I learned this from my pop, is that you're going to have disaster. So now that you got that groove, you're going to, and it's in there, you got to slowly but surely weed your way out of it. So we're going to have structure. When we go back to school, it's going to be a slow process. And one thing I learned about this, being at Hertford County is that we're everything to these children.
Right.
So once we got athletics back, that was a life for them. Once school came back, that was a life for them, something they didn't have before. We're everything to our children here. We're everything to them. So we're going to have to be a little bit more strategic in how we handle our students. We're going to have to be a little bit more strategic in, once we go back into school, what we offer our children. We have to dive into the more of the hands-on activities that we will offer. One of the things I say this is that, we have CT in those programs, but we got to go back to the stuff a little bit more dig a little deeper into CT and go to trade, because our children are learning how to fix cars now. Because, hey, you want that car, it's been sitting in the yard. Hey, you need the rotors turned. So now they're learning those things. Now they're back in school. We have to bring those things out. So the groove is going to have to be continuously to go upward. But when it goes upward, we're going to have to make sure that we're offering everything to hit every child. And it goes back to what you told me when I got here. You have the total child. We just can't do part of the child, right, the total child. We're going to have to educate the whole child. So that means social emotional learning is going to have to be part of our educational system. We're going to have to offer trade to our kids, CT. We're going to have kids, we might not have a child that's going to go to a 4-year school. So we got to have a program for them to be able to go to a 2-year college. So we're going to have to open up those doors. But when those doors open up, we're going to have multiple pathways for our students.
Right. Awesome. So you remember that, huh?
Yes, sir. I do.
That's great. Dr. Leach, I am pretty much at the end of my questions, but do you have any other comments or things that you'd like to address at this time with our viewing audience while we've got a captive audience?
Well, one of the things I want to talk about is just to continue to love our children. Yep. We have some children that's going through some social and emotional things. We have adults, our staff, who are going through social and emotional things. And as parents, I know you all as well, continue to try to bridge that gap between the community, the school, and try to continue to support our children in all kind of ways. The last thing I want to say, Dr. Wright, is that when you work inside of education, we have a different thought process than many. But one thing is it's all about service. And we have to lead it that way through stewardship.
That's right. Thank you very much. Dr. Leach, if you'll hold on with me, we'll come right back and close the show.
All right.
In observance of National Principals Month, as we've said earlier, all month we are interviewing and talking with principals who are actually doing the work in schools every day. And absolutely, service is key, and we just appreciate the work that principals do. There is no tougher frontline job than the principalship if it's done right and done well. An amazing responsibility, day-to-day responsibility, unlike any other. And so we're excited to be able to feature some amazing principals throughout the month of October. My guest next week is going to be Dr. Greta Dula, who is the principal of Sanderson High School in Raleigh, North Carolina. Dr. Dula also, she and I were in school together. I graduated a year before she did in high school, but I've been knowing her for many, many years and look forward to having her aboard next week. You will also hear from another principal who is a brand new principal to the job in a southeastern county in North Carolina on the 28th. So we've got some amazing principals lined up. As you see, we've already interviewed 2 amazing principals and look forward to continuing to do that in observance of National Principals Month. And then in the month of November, we will feature some amazing superintendent leaders and district leaders. We want to continue to bring you quality programming when we can. And so we're looking forward to continuing to grow this show. And thank you for your viewership and being a part of what we're trying to do. Dr. Leach, I want to thank you so much for tonight's wisdom and insight. And I want to thank you for the work that you do every day at Hertford County High School, but also for the Hertford County Public School District. Our school, I believe, is better because of your leadership, and just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Dr. Wright.
All right. Thank you all for watching The Wright Experience. Good evening.